It's time for the Inside Pitch, the official off-season radio show of your Winnipeg Goldeyes. On the home of the Goldeyes, 93.7 CJNU.
Good evening and welcome to episode 5 of the Inside Pitch here on CJNU 93.7 FM. Trevor Curl here with you, and we've got a great episode tonight. Catcher Kevin Garcia joins us along with right-handed pitcher, the big fish, Landen Bourassa. And I'm sitting in the Goldeyes offices right now here on Friday, March the 20th. But by the time this episode comes to air on the 25th, I will be down in Mexico City broadcasting games for the Baseball Champions League. So if you would like, turn on over to AA Baseball TV and go catch up on the action down in the capital city of Mexico. But if not, we'll have plenty of highlights to share with you on the AA socials. But we've got a good one tonight, as we talked about. Kevin Garcia, Landen Bourassa will join us in just a moment. But we've got to get some housekeeping stuff taken care of here as we get closer and closer to the 2026 season. The home opener tickets are now on sale. They went on sale back on Tuesday on St. Patrick's Day. Single game tickets will go on sale on the 31st. So remember to go out to Blue Cross Park. And if you are a season ticket holder, make sure you get a hold of our folks in the ticketing office to make sure that you guys get your tickets for the season. Not only that, the Goldeyes home opener jerseys are going to be given away on the Goldeyes home opener on Tuesday, May 19th, a beautiful red Goldeye jersey along with Goldeyes written across the chest. That is in, well, you've guessed it, gold, along with the number on the back for 26 for the 2026 season. The promo schedule, that is also out and about, and we've got some great ones there. Obviously, the home opener fireworks, magnet schedules, baseball bingo, we're bringing that one back. Goldie's birthday with some fireworks, country night, shirt off our back night, more fireworks, the National Indigenous Peoples Day, Father's Day, and so much more. Go to goldeyes.com to find the promo schedule right there. Of course, Bark in the Park is back, the Churchill trips, so much more. Christmas in July, I'm telling you, I'm rambling on, but there's a lot of great promotions. Those are subject to change if there's a rain out, but we're not even going to put that juju out in the air. Let's see, what else can we talk about? I mean, here we go. Individual Sky Suite tickets are on sale now. So make sure that you guys go to goldeyes.com and get yourself a group put together so you can enjoy the luxurious experience at Blue Cross Park. I mean, this is obviously a very exciting episode. Talking with Landen, talking with Kevin, me being down in Mexico City. We talked with manager Logan Watkins last week, or it's not last week, but the last episode. And the roster is slowly starting to get its final touches on it. And we're very close to the home opener now, just to the opening day in general. By the time this episode is coming to air, we are almost at Major League Baseball's opening day. So that is exciting. I mean, we're just at that point right now where baseball really is taking the cake. We just had the World Baseball Classic final just a couple of nights ago. Team Venezuela beating the United States in a tight contest 3-2 in Miami. And that was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, great job by Team Canada to get through the group stages for the first time ever as an organization. Baseball Canada making its way into the knockout rounds. We talked with Landen a little bit about that, so you'll hear his perspective, at least from the Canadian side of things. But the country was fired up. I overheard the interview that Andrew Collier gave out with Winnipeg Sports Talk, and there is a buzz about Canadian baseball. And as we get closer to our season, you will see some of those international stars. Obviously, we talked about Jacob Robson last year. Landen Bourassa, he's pitched for Team Canada. He'll be here. TJ Schofield Sam, he will be on this ball club as well. He has represented the Maple Leaf at the national level. And we'll get Ray Patrick Ditter, World Baseball Classic guy with the Kingdom of the Netherlands alongside with R.I. Franson. Look, we've had ourselves a very good showing of Goldeyes in the World Baseball Classic, and that will obviously continue forward into hopefully the next WBC, where we see maybe even some more Goldeyes. Baseball Classic, excuse me, not Baseball Classic, Baseball Champions League news. Max Murphy and Derek Cherry, two Goldeyes chosen to represent Kane County down in Mexico City. You remember, that's on right now at AA Baseball TV, but those are a couple of Goldeyes to look out for as we get the first leg of the season out of the way. So let's get right on into tonight's episode. We'll start things off with catcher Kevin Garcia. Welcome you back to the Inside Pitch here on CJNU, joined with catcher Kevin Garcia, joining us from California. Kevin, how's the offseason so far, and now that you're in nice warm weather here?
Feels a lot better weather-wise right now. Came down to visit my family, but it's been pretty cold. Back up in Winnipeg. Cannot say that I miss the weather right now. But yeah, it's been a good off season. Just trying to stay busy, trying to stay on top of everything I have to do in order to, perform and stay ready for 100 games.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that most of your off season takes place here in Winnipeg. I know you have a house here. How often are you able to get back to the West Coast and enjoy some of that California sunshine before the season starts?
I come down at least twice a year, trying to see my parents closer to Christmas and Thanksgiving, and then just before the season starts, trying to get a little reset, get some stuff done on the field before I head back to Winnipeg.
Now you're going into your 13th season, 12 years as a professional baseball player. We'll talk a little bit more about that soon, but just take us through what has to happen in order for a player to play over a decade of professional baseball. I know it's a lot on the body, the traveling, and then just everything else that goes along with that. So in 12 years, how much more have you learned over just the last couple of years versus when you first started?
Obviously, when you start, you're young. Obviously, not saying I'm old, but I'm on the second half of my career. I would like to think. When you're young, it's all pretty much just, show up and get to work. And once you reach your second half of your career, you focus more on the recovery, the prehab, the post throwing, the pre-throwing. Things that used to take me an hour to do at the gym now take me closer to 2.5 because of all the recovery I gotta do after and the things I gotta do before, all the stretching, all the mobility. Once you get to this age, especially being a catcher, I think the focus has to be a lot on the recovery, a lot on the mobility, not so much on the strength. Well, you work at the same time, but I try to, at least this season, I try to focus more on mobility and explosiveness, not so much on the strength side.
This year in particular, really the 2025 season in particular, one of your more productive offensive seasons over the last couple of years. And I know a lot of that you would attribute to you just being a lot more healthier this year than in the 2024 season. So, how did you feel about your personal performance last year versus maybe the last couple of other seasons?
Uh, I would say it was different in the sense that I usually start super hot. Like the first 2 weeks, I usually start, I don't know, hitting like 400, and then it gradually slows down. Whereas to this year, it was a super slow start. I think at the half, I was hitting like a buck 90 or a buck 80, and then second half, ended up hitting I think closer to whatever it was that got me up to 248, 250. Um, but I was lucky enough that this year I had pretty good teammates and Jacob Robson and Mark Workington and Ramon Bramasco, things that we all four used to work on the same things. And once things just clicked, it was, I mean, you can see Jacob's second half was unbelievable. Ramon had probably one of the best years he's had, and my second half just really kicked off. Um, I would have said just staying patient and the consistency of the drills. And usually, when you're going through some sort of slump, you start changing and tweaking and whatnot. And it's more of a mindset and staying patient and knowing that what you're doing actually works.
I mean, I'm looking through some of these numbers, and I'll take you back to the June series in Gary, and that's where things really started to get going for you. Then you mentioned the second half really broke out for you. I mean, it was really the month of August, all things considered, that Milwaukee series, then in Sioux Falls, coming back home against Lincoln and Cleburne. But it really was that stretch from August 2nd to, let's say, looks like around August 17th. So that's 15 games of just piecing things together. I know baseball is just so hard because you go through either cold or long cold stretches and short hot stretches, but when you can find that consistency like you did in those series, it just seems like it every day feels like a new opportunity to grow on each of those successes. So, especially on the power side of things, as you hit for a little bit more power this year, was that just those swing changes or was that a little bit more of that off-season preparation that we talked about earlier?
I think honestly, I think it was the swing change. I think it was the approach I had that was different. Things that I was working on that I wasn't doing before. Uh, I tend to, as a left-handed hitter, I tend to lunge a lot at the baseball, and working with the teammates that I just mentioned, it just made me think of being more quick and catching the ball instead of actually going and getting the ball, right? Getting rid of that little ball of anxiety. Um, and just staying relaxed when you're going good is it's like you're cruising on cruise control, right? You just don't really have to change anything, but just stay with your routine. But it's something that I see that I wish that when I was younger I had, right? When I was younger, it was I would like I said, I would have streak. I'm a very streaky hitter, so when I'm hot, and when I'm cold, I'm freezing cold. Um, Again, I don't have the speed to rely on that. You know what? I'm 0 for 9. I can just drop a bunt and make it a base hit, and that's over. I'm more of a moving guys over, occasional power, But when I was going through those 15 games that you just talked about, when everything just clicked, I just felt like there was no one that could be in the mound that could get me out, and that's maybe a little bit obnoxious to say, uh, but that's the mindset you have. Everything slows down, and it's just doesn't matter who's out there. All you see is the ball, and if it's in the zone, you want to hit it and you want to swing at it. You just kind of take a swing, and you most likely gonna hit it.
And you get 100 games, and for you as a catcher, you just kind of get those chopped up just because you can't catch every single day. And especially when you're going through those types of swing changes and adjustments, what really goes into a mind of a hitter when they go into the batting cage and they're trying to work on a specific drill? They go into the game, and maybe that specific drill that you were working on doesn't have any translation. So then you go into the cages after the game. What's kind of the focus? Is it still that drill, or is it what happened in the game that caused me to not swing the way I was trying to uh, during my early BP?
I think the most important thing you gotta do when going through a swing change is you gotta be very open-minded, right? And some of us get really stuck in our ways and believe that because you had some occasional success or that's all you've been taught that that's the right way. But like everything in life, right? It evolves. We see it on the framing. When I started my professional catching career, there was no framing, there was no knee down, but you gotta adapt. That's what everyone's doing right now. Same thing with the swing. You see guys that were not having success. All of a sudden, we're hitting 30 plus home runs. And again, you might be feeling and thinking something, but the swing really shows something else, and that's personal, right? But I like to think that if if there's one thing that's never gonna lie, it's the video. So whatever the video of those big leaguers that have a lot of success have in common is what you should try to focus on, and that's where we based our drills, and that's where um, you know um, as hard as it is to as easy as it is to get drill happy, meaning all you want to think about is a drill. At some point, you got to translate that into the game. It might not even look even close, right? There's a difference between feel, there's a difference between how it looks, and there's a difference between how it performs. Um, Understanding that not everyone's going to feel the same. Some people that have a very steep swing have to think I have to swing to the moon. Some people that have a really upward swing have to think chop the ball so that they actually get somewhere in between a little more of a level of a swing. But everyone's different, right? And acknowledging that not everyone's different. I mean, for me, I'm two hitters. Lefty, I have a completely different approach than I do righty. right? Righty, I was taught I'm a very handsy hitter, meaning I can pretty much manipulate the ball pretty consistent as a right-hander, and a lefty, I can't think that because it throws off everything that I worked on, right? So I think understanding yourself, understanding what works for you, the thoughts that really get you in gear to fire, and again, it's a challenge, especially being a switch hitter, having two different thinkings and two different feels.
We're talking with Kevin Garcia on the inside pitch. And then I talked about this with Ramon earlier in the offseason about his two swings from the left hand and the right hand side. You mentioned that just briefly earlier. What about like if it's in a game and you're in the batting cages before the game, you know you're going to see a right-hander, but then you see a left-hander come in from the bullpen, say in between innings. Now you got to go with your right-handed swing. And I know you don't really have any time to go down to the cages to start swinging right-handed. So what happens then for your mindset when you're going into that first at bat, switching from that left side that you were maybe two at bats or plate appearances earlier, and now you got to swing to the right side?
Again, it's something that you take care before the game, right? We study their arms. We know who they're most likely going to bring in, and in the preparation before the game, I like to do the same thing I do lefty as righty every single day. Some players like it, some players don't, obviously because it takes time off the cage and off the BP. But that's what it takes to be a switch hitter. That's what we got to do, right? Like I said, we're two players, and we try to take care of that. Ramon and I being switch hitters, and being roommates on the road, we tend to have a plan of attack, and even in before the field, or in pregame, or even in the hotel room, we start to chat and look at the pictures they have and try to prepare ourselves.
Oh, we're gonna take a quick look at catching right now in the new era that baseball is in. So we talked about this prior to the interview, in that automated balls and strike system. It's coming to Major League Baseball. We're gonna see a little bit of a different look of how catchers operate, because it used to be just you framing, you're stealing strikes. Now it's not really changed because you just only have so many challenges available. But what does catching then provide for the ABS? Is it more pressure on a catcher to stick pitches so that a hitter maybe doesn't get an opportunity to think about challenging? Or is this kind of just you're taking away framing altogether now that a computer can call balls and strikes?
I mean, like, you said it right. You only get a certain amount of challenges. I think it didn't change. I think if anything, it's gonna expose, like you said, not giving up on pitches, staying with most of them, and trying to present them to the best of your capabilities. But again, I think it would be different if I hope this never happens, but if someday we end up getting an automated zone for every pitch, then I feel actually you won't even need a catcher. You would probably put a nine pocket there and just stop the ball. But with this new rule, I think it'll expose everyone's awareness of the strike zone, even the umpires. I mean, we saw it in the big leagues where there's a couple umpires that miss by a lot, and there's some that are really close. There's some that miss three in a row, but there's also the there's, like I said, the awareness the hitter is gonna have of the zone will expose you quick too. If you challenge a strike that was a ball, um, and it turns out to be a strike, then that hitter's probably, well, I have nowhere near my zone if this ABS is correct. Um, Again, technology is great, but everyone was talking about how framing was going to ruin a lot of catchers and that the game's changing. Well, this is probably going to be worse.
Oh, I mean, we saw that with the Dominican USA game just a couple of nights ago, where that pitch that was just below the zone, ABS era, that's going to be tapped. I'm sure that would be challenged. It would be ruled a ball, and then you get to see Tatis come up with a chance with the game on the line. Do you think this helps the game, or is this going to be an instance where we just have to feel it out for the year? Because I saw it in Arizona with the Fall League. I think it works well, in practice at least. hitters really kind of feel like they might get an advantage, but you get to see both sides of it as a hitter and as a catcher. So what do you think about ABS going into Major League Baseball?
I mean, I really think that ABS or no ABS, like you go back to that pitch that was called a strike. Do I think it was a strike off the get-go? No. There's pitches that Salvador Perez was catching that I thought were strikes had I if I didn't have that box, right? I think it's going to come down to presentation, how well you present the baseball as a catcher. Um, Again, that's a pitch that if I don't have the box and if I don't have ABS, I call a ball. Like I don't think he did that good of a job of framing it. Um, I think, like I said, it's going to come down to presentation. But yeah, definitely with ABS, I think it's going to help pitchers get strikes that sometimes are not called strikes. I think that's a plus. I think that in a situation with that, with the ABS, you know, with Tatis coming up, it would have changed the game for sure. It probably would have been Dominican, Venezuela.
There's a possibility, just the way we've seen that Dominican team play. And then we talked about it earlier with like the knee down and how catching changed over the course of the years. And you say you've been a professional for 12 years now. How much has catching evolutionized since you started your playing career professionally? Because I think when you started, the knee down thing was just like getting its feet wet, or how did that all work out?
So actually, the knee down came down, if I'm not mistaken. I honestly, if I'm not mistaken, it started in the 90s with a couple of the catchers back then. They took it away. When I started, it was very rare to see anyone framing anything. It was mostly stick it and hold it wherever the pitch is called. Um, but on the new school, if I'm not mistaken, I think Tanner Swanson was the one who came up with it, and I was in the Twins when he was with the Twins. So I think the first guy that actually started that was Tanner with Mitch Garver in 2016, I believe, or 17, might have been. But yeah, we worked on the knee down with him since he joined camp. And since that day on, everything just started to change a little bit, right? Um, a lot of catchers were getting criticized by, I think there was a play with Realmuto, bases loaded, wild pitch, and they lost the game. But a lot of people were saying had it been on his both knees, he would have blocked it. We don't know that. Again, pitchers, I believe that pitchers that are going to be blocked are going to get blocked no matter what, if you're knee down or two knees up. I think it's I think it's better with a knee down. You're halfway there, you know. Obviously, pitchers don't want to throw it all over the plate. They always work to, if they're gonna spike it, keep it somewhere near so that they get a swing off. I think if you get a swing off on a pitch that it's 3-4 feet off the plate, you're not expecting anyone to block it, right? Uh, but again, it comes down to your athletic ability, how well you move behind the dish, and working on every single stance that you possibly can to get better and get as big as a target as you can and try to be a goalie back there.
Oh, we have Landen Bourassa joining you on tonight's episode, and you and Landon have worked together for the last few years. Mitch Lampson, I talked with him earlier in the off season. You worked with him back in your earlier days in Winnipeg when you first came to the Goldeyes. I mean, this is going to be a pretty interesting year this year, looking at the roster and the pitching staff side of things. Got a couple of veteran guys, got a couple of guys who are in the middle of their professional careers, and then you got a fair share of guys, especially on the bullpen side, who are young kids getting their feet wet in professional baseball over the last few years. So, for you being a veteran leadership in the clubhouse, but then also behind the plate working as a battery mate, what is your perspective go into these interactions when you meet these guys for the first time, and then as you get to know them, you catch bullpens throughout the season?
Yeah, and indie ball is very interesting because you don't have all this, month and a half to get to know each other. Like you said, I've been working with Mitch Lamson for years. I've been working with Landon for years. We're pretty much on the same page, and we get along. And I think building a relationship off the field is very important, crucial to gain that trust and to make them understand that all I want for them is to be the best version of themselves, right? Try to call the best game of my abilities, knowing what they have to offer. And for those new guys, um, getting a vibe, see how they are. Everyone's different. Not everyone's outgoing. Some guys are introvert, some guys are extrovert, and I think the first week is it's more important to see how they are as players, not so much as pitchers. And as we get on with the bullpens, getting to know what they like, getting to know what pitches they like to call with certain counts. What's your pitch that you can go to anytime you want to get a strike? With college kids coming in, it's 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 fun. It's exciting because you see that hunger they have in their eyes and how much they want to do better and how they want to perform. And honestly, I just ask for them to just take it serious and understand that when you're on that bump, you have a job to do and do it to the best of your abilities and nothing more, nothing less.
And we'll go back to the World Baseball Classic for just a moment, just because of the amount of former teammates you've had. I'm sure there's other guys that you've run into over the course of your career who are playing in this tournament. Take us through what it's like on the international side of things, because you have all the players from the United States who play at the highest level, and of course you got the guys from the Dominican Republic, got the guys from Venezuela, from Cuba. All those guys are in Major League Baseball, but there's a small handful of guys like we saw with the Kingdom of the Netherlands. A lot of those players haven't made it to Major League Baseball, or they're like kind of on that edge of Major League Baseball. And guys like Ditter, Dayson, who was with the Netherlands, R.I. Franson, who's going to be joining us, same thing. What is it like for these guys who get a chance to play on the world's biggest stage and you get to watch these guys who you've competed with and called teammates over the years?
It's exciting, man. It's exciting. I remember seeing Dayson and Ditter, and it's awesome. It's awesome to see them get a little taste of what possibly they could do. Dayson's really close. Uh, I firmly believe he's gonna break out, and he's gonna at some point in this year get a taste of what he deserves, right? I compare him to a Rise, also a buddy of mine who it's also awesome to see how much they enjoy the game and the passion that they put up. And sometimes it might be taken out of context, but it's just how passionate they are for the game, right? Um, and it's as a competitor and as a baseball player, it's exciting, but as a friend, it's way more exciting. Once you see that game as a fan and as someone that you call your teammates, it's like you're there, right? It's like they're playing, but you're right there with them. It feels it's a very emotional feeling and exciting feeling for them, for all the hard work that they've done and the work they've put in and get a taste of what they deserve.
Yeah, I remember sitting on my phone when or just sitting on my couch when the rosters were being announced, and I saw Dayson's name and Ray's name, and it was awesome to see that. But I think we were at your house having a barbecue when Dayson gave us a call that he was getting called up to AAA, and I mean, it was kind of that same joyous feeling that everyone was just remembering just how last year he was so close to breaking into the affiliated ranks, and it just never happened going into the season. He gets called by the Giants, and now here he is just on the doorstep, it seems like.
Yeah, it was very exciting. It was very exciting. I remember we called him and you know, hey Tio, like congratulations. Oh, thanks, Tio. I appreciate you. And it's awesome, especially for a kid like him, right? That never really got a chance with all the rounds getting cut. The style of game that he has reminds me of the 90s. I believe had he been born in the 1980s and gone into the 90s, he would be a 10-year vet by now. I don't see him not making it to the big leagues, and I really hope that the Giants see not only what great of a player he is, but how he carries himself on and off the field. Unbelievable kid, but even a better friend and a better human.
You've had the pleasure of having a lot of these teammates over the years, and as we wrap up here today, just what have you seen from the last year's ball club of the returners? who are coming into the season this year? Because I know it was going from 24 to 25, just missing out by a couple of games. Then last year, just wild set of circumstances, just season never really got to a hot going. And now here you guys are going into the 26 campaign. What's kind of the feeling that most of you guys have without maybe having all that communication with each other until you guys get to the clubhouse?
Have the camaraderie. I think that's something that the 2024 club had that it's a very strange it's very hard to describe. It's just it's one of those teams that you get possibly one every 10 years, right? You get to be teammates with a handful of guys like that, and it's really really exciting. And I would love to think that everyone has, done their work and has taken everything serious and focus on health because that's something that we didn't have in 2025. Um, but yeah, I just hope that everyone comes in hungry and wanting to win because at the end of the day, indie ball, it's not like you can move up the ranks. There's no other affiliate with us. This is our big leagues. Um, so just get a group of guys that pull to the same direction. I think that would be something that would be the standard and obviously that we perform on the field.
When do you make your way back up to Canada? I know you're in California for just a couple of more days, I'd imagine, but when does the trek for you come back home?
I go back on Tuesday at midnight.
All right, we'll make sure that there's at least somewhat of warm weather for you when we get here. It's been cold the last couple of days, but otherwise, I get what you're saying. Just being in Tampa, Florida for the entire off season, coming here, it wasn't very fun. So hopefully, you're getting some rounds of golf in when you're down there.
I'll try. I'll try. I didn't bring my clubs because it was, I just wanted to be spend time with my family and be with them as much as I can. And I do have an extra old set of clubs here, so I'll probably end up hitting the links on the weekend with the boys and hopefully I bring some of that warm weather with me to Winnipeg.
Yeah, let's get things going. Kevin, thanks for stopping by.
You got it.
Welcome you back here on the inside pitch. Big Fish Landen Bourassa stepping in on a gorgeous Friday afternoon. Landon, how are things going for you after getting back from sunny Arizona?
Yeah, things are good. Things are good. I think Murph and I got off the plane and it was -10 and snowing, and I felt like it was still winter and hadn't left. And then now today we've got a bunch of sunshine and all the snow starting to melt. So we're getting closer.
I'll tell you what, there's still about 3 feet or so of snow on the field. I went up to the broadcast booth earlier, but we're not playing ball today. Probably wouldn't be playing ball for another month and a half, luckily. We have all that time to get ready. But I mean, another good off season for you down in Australia. We'll talk a lot about that in just a moment. But Very briefly, and I mean very briefly, take us through your personal 2025 season.
Yeah. Started off great, was throwing the ball awesome. I remember I was leading the league in innings pitched by like a wide margin, and then wind up getting pneumonia and spent a month on the couch, and that kind of derailed things, but was able to come back. And when I was, on the mound and throwing, I was throwing well, but it was kind of an interesting thing for me because I've never missed starts before, like ever in my career outside of having Tommy John. So to kind of take some time and have to watch the team from afar, especially when we were struggling, I mean, definitely wasn't fun. But it's still a learning experience, and there's something to be had for that. And like I said, I think it'll just make me even better for this year, and it certainly made me better for this winter, and made me more prepared for that.
Oh, we'll take a look at the Australia numbers. I've got those here. Fantastic. Pitcher of the year, all-star, had back-to-back complete games, which I know for you guys down there in Australia, it's probably a little bit different with your series because it's weekend starts versus every 5 days. So you're waiting 7 days to get the ball again. But a 2.31 ERA across 62 and a thirds innings. The number that stands out to me, you only walk three batters over the course of that stretch, and he had 59 strikeouts. I mean, that is dominance. That's about as Landen Bourassa as it gets. The walk numbers continue to stay low for pretty much not just your professional career, but your entire career going back to your time at San Francisco. So, take us through the preparation to get into this offseason specifically because, look, 85 and two-thirds innings pitched. If it was any other starter, I would say that's not a bad innings load, but I know for you, that is not a good innings work at all. So take us through going into this offseason specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at that, it's a pretty good innings load for someone who missed a third of the season. I'll put it that way. Um, So yeah, I think there was an element where I was still pretty fresh and had some things that I really wanted to tune up before I got down to Australia. So luckily for me, Ben Onishko being here as well in Winnipeg, and basically, I mean, there was a couple days where I would throw my bullpens in the middle of the week, and I basically tell him like, "Hey, be my pitching coach today," and we just kind of go through a bunch of different stuff, some video, some Rapsodo numbers, like just really kind of dialing in some of the pitches that I need to work on to be ready to dominate down in Australia. And that was awesome to have him for that. And the other element of that too is him and I were both building back up to go play for Team Canada in Panama before that trip unfortunately got canceled. But still, nonetheless, like him and I got to spend some time down there in Florida with some other former Goldeyes players and stuff. And that was another great opportunity. But yeah, like that was kind of what the off season started like. And just knowing that I was going to have to show up and ready to throw, 6 innings to start. And it's the same thing. I remember Rick Forney telling me that before the 22 season. I said, all right, what do you need from me when I get here? And he just said, well, show up ready to throw 100 pitches. So that's kind of the mindset I take towards any season starting, right? Is as long as I can do that right from the get-go in week one, then I know I'm going to be in really good shape and I won't be playing catch up for that season.
Oh, well, really in this offseason in particular, you go into it with a third of the season lost, and you have a specific goal going into every bit of your training, I know. But here this year specifically, compared to maybe last offseason, what were you planning going into this year with Sydney versus the first time around?
Yeah, I mean, I had such a great experience down there. I wanted to do it again. And I think it was really good for me to just take on that challenge of pitching year round because that's not something that everyone gets the opportunity to, but it's also something that not everyone can handle. So, for last year, it was about proving it to myself that I could throw 200 innings in a year, just because, I may not be in the major leagues, but that is kind of major league standard for what a workhorse starter does. And that's something I pride myself on doing. And this year was more about just getting opportunities to be in games again. Like that was something that I missed a ton being on the couch. And unfortunately, last year we weren't as competitive as we would have wanted to be. And just knowing that we had another, good team down in Sydney that I'd have an opportunity to play for. I mean, like I said, there's a little bit of unfinished business there. Last year being the best team in the regular season and not winning the championship, and then kind of going back there this year. Unfortunately, the same kind of thing unfolded. But it's a lot of fun to be a part of teams that win games, and generally those teams that win games, they're pretty close, pretty tight knit, and those guys like to have a good time. So just knowing that I had that opportunity to go back and also too just for my body and my own development, be in some sunshine during those colder months. I mean, it's an opportunity that would be really hard to pass up. So really glad I took that to go down there and pitch some more because, like I said, it's really good being on that once a week schedule where you can basically fully recover every single time before each start. Where sometimes in the season here you get a little bit compressed. You might only kind of build or fill the tank back up to 85 or 90%. You got to go pitch again, but down there it's kind of a luxury to be able to throw once a week, so you get a true reflection of your abilities and your stuff. So definitely was important for me to get a chance to do that after missing some of that last season.
Was it a little different this year with the league being kind of restructured?
Yes and no. Like I think playing the same teams multiple times as opposed to just twice each team was a bit of an adjustment where, um, as a pitcher, the more a lineup sees you, the better they're going to be against you, right? So it offered some pretty good challenges in that sense. But really, I didn't notice a ton difference. I mean, we still got to play in some excellent cities, and if anything, I think the competition might have been better because all the Team Australia guys were split up amongst four teams instead of six. And then there was kind of an influx of affiliate players this year. Just knowing with some of the roster restrictions and salary cap, they had to bring in more affiliate guys. So I thought that was a lot of fun just to play against some really good competition again. And like I said, it's a very passionate bunch down there that really care about the game. And just fortunate that we have such a great coaching staff and the guys around me and the local guys especially make that such a great experience for some of those international players like myself.
And we'll transition this to the World Baseball Classic. Speaking of international players, a good showing this year again by the WBC, and it extends into Team Canada this year. First time that the Canadians have ever made it out of a group stage. It did help that they weren't being put in the same group of death as they usually are with the U.S., Mexico, but it was still a tough group, and it came down to that final game against Cuba. Winner moves on, and ended up it was the Canadians who took the top seed in the pool. Take us through what you've seen out of the Canadian national teams now over the last few seasons, not just in the World Baseball Classic, but just how the game is growing in the country because it seems like more players are starting to get exposed to baseball. Not that they weren't already, but just the amount of players that are in hockey versus baseball, it really shows you the talent level that we're seeing out of the Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many elements to this that you can talk about. You can talk about registration numbers being up. You can talk about the success of the Blue Jays. You can talk about the success of Team Canada at this WBC and some other international events. But ultimately, like it seems like every year there's three, four, five, six Canadians going in the first two rounds of the draft, and it's unbelievable to have that much talent come out of this country. And what it means too, and you kind of saw it with the WBC, is how talented and young that roster was. Like, there's a really good opportunity for baseball in this country to be really prominent worldwide for the next 10, 15, 20 years, as long as that trend continues. And it's super exciting just to be a part of that and see a lot of former teammates, friends, people that you can cheer on in those kind of events. And at the same time too, just, being a Canadian and being a fan, it's a lot of fun to be a part of. And like I said, having the most success that we've ever had as a nation in that event, I mean, that does wonders for you. That does wonders for your federal funding. That does wonders for your world ranking, getting into different events. Like, that's something that's all very important to the success of that sport in the country. And like I said, just super fun to watch from a fan perspective and also as a baseball player in this country.
Now, what happens or what happened to that tournament that you guys were supposed to play down in Panama? I was texting you a little bit in the off season. I was down in St. Petersburg, gonna try to find at least one of your practices up there in Dunedin, but what happened there? Did it just end up being thrown out, or because I know you guys were already feet on the ground in Florida when that ended up having to get scrapped?
Yeah, super unfortunate situation. And just I have so much respect and admiration for everybody at Baseball Canada with Greg and Ernie and everyone who just makes everything happen down there. Like, to be that far into it and kind of have the rug pulled out from under us in terms of the tournament organizers and some, we'll call it political conflict influence, I guess you could say, just knowing that part of that tournament was supposed to be taking place in Venezuela with some unrest and uncertainty. Um, Things kind of changed, and like I said, that's a pretty massive tournament and takes a lot of money and resources and people to be able to run that. And like I said, it was unfortunate that we found out a couple days before the event was supposed to take place that it couldn't happen. But nonetheless, like, it's a qualifying tournament for the Pan Am Games, and there's going to have to be that tournament taking place here in this calendar year. So there will be other opportunities for that, as far as I know and as far as I've been told. But just super unfortunate for how that unfolded because, like I said, everyone with Baseball Canada just does such a good job of taking care of us as athletes and providing opportunities in that regard. And to have something kind of slip away like that is unfortunate. So just knowing all the people involved to see the success of Team Canada at the WBC, it made me feel pretty good knowing that we've kind of been through some uncertain times there in the last calendar year with some of the men's national teams. So, yeah, really unfortunate how it didn't go down there because I know it would have been a really good opportunity for a lot of us. And like I said, a bunch of former Goldeyes or current Goldeyes to go down there and play on the international stage. But, there will be some opportunities in the future. Hopefully I'll be a part of that. And yeah, like I said, super unfortunate, but sometimes those kind of things happen, and you got to expect the unexpected. Sometimes in international baseball, it doesn't always function the same way that the American Association does.
We're talking with Landen Bourassa on the Inside Pitch. And by the time this interview comes to air, I'll be down in Mexico City doing the Baseball Champions League. Lane, I know you were there last year, and it was a great experience, not just for our league to go back down and play in that tournament, for you yourself playing against a bunch of teams that I'm sure you've probably never heard of before, in a bunch of leagues that I know you have probably heard of before. But in that environment itself, where the elevation comes into play, it's a quick ramp up to actually get into that tournament, and it is just an evolving just experience from all of these guys, not just in our league, but in these other leagues. What does this tournament mean for the guys who go down there and get to play in this environment of Mexico City?
Yeah. Oh, such a great opportunity. I think you look at it and in all honesty, guys can use that as a stepping stone. You look at the success that Dason Cruz had there last year as a player and kind of parlaying that into a contract with the Giants. Um, at the same time, too, it's a really good opportunity for some of those players in indie ball to be able to extend their competitive calendar a little bit. And I think that's something that can be kind of difficult for us, only playing 100 games and having kind of a shortened spring training, but getting to expand that competitive window, whether it be early in the spring like this, or I know how that tournament has taken place in the fall before too. It's a really good opportunity and kind of a showcase too for the top talent in our league and leagues across the world, really just to kind of showcase themselves for either MLB clubs, different winter ball clubs, or international teams. Like that event it was a really good time last year. I had such a great time going down there and just meet a bunch of guys from across the league too. Like those are the kind of things that you walk away from. And yeah, we didn't win the event last year, but getting to know some of those guys and build relationships across the league, I mean, that's a big part of this too, right? We're all working at the game in the same way and kind of co-workers in a sense. So to get to catch up with those guys throughout the season made it a lot of fun to have some of those relationships too. And that's definitely what I'll take away from it.
What else can you take away from just learning to pitch in the elevation in general? I've talked with Justin Courtney very briefly, just a little bit about what it's like to watch the games there. But as a pitcher, everything is kind of working against you, just the physics of pitching in a stadium that is like almost two times higher than Coors Field in Denver. It's
Yeah.
turf as well on the infield, so that takes away your bread and butter right there, which is ground balls, because it just skips on through the infield, and then the
Yeah.
ball just keeps on carrying and carrying and carrying forever. And just the pitches that you are really good at, like specifically your two seam fastball or your sinker, and your breaking stuff doesn't also move the same way as well. So, what
Yeah.
did you learn about pitching down there?
Yeah, I think the best way I could phrase it is it's like playing baseball on the moon, where gravity doesn't seem to exist, and if balls are in the middle of the plate, they just don't move. But that in itself too was a lot of fun. Like that was a really good challenge where kind of seeing the scores, and I was fortunate to start the semifinal game, like where you kind of see the scores throughout the entire tournament. I think the batting average across the whole event was 450 or something. So like it was kind of a 50-50 toss up when somebody stepped in the box if they were going to hit their way on base or if they were going to get themselves out, which is just a surreal challenge to try to conquer. But I definitely got some advice from Justin Courtney on what to throw and what not to throw. But ultimately, it just made me realize too that there's always some of those old school nuances of pitching that are always going to hold true, like having some deception, pitching to the corners, keeping the ball low. Like those are the kind of things that if you can't just straight blow away a guy with 98, 99 mile an hour fastballs, or you don't have a devastating splitter in conditions like that, then you got to pitch. You got to hold runners. You got to defend your position, do all those kind of things that sometimes people like to kind of rag on because it seems old school, but ultimately that's just baseball fundamentals and things you have to do to have success. And they just kind of become even more true and even more overstated in situations like that because it's, you you miss one play defensively, and all of a sudden that could lead to a 3, 4, 5, 6 run inning. And it's kind of crazy how things can get out of hand pretty quick in those conditions. But it just means that your defense and your pitching and how they go about that are all the more important. So, like I said, a lot of fun, super challenging, but it was an awesome event to be at.
Talking with Landen Bourassa on the inside pitch. And that kind of goes into my next question is how important is it to not walk batters in this environment? Like when we're watching this tournament go down this week, how imperative is it for strike one versus starting a at bat or a plate appearance at 1-0?
Yeah, I mean I'd honestly say it's kind of a toss up though, because there is a point where I know myself going down there, like I throw so many strikes where I think hitters can just get really comfortable in the box and they can just get into swing mode. And when the conditions are in their favor like that, it might work against you where sometimes there is good times to walk batters. And, everyone, all the hitters that step in the box, they're human. They're going to chase pitches at times. So sometimes having a good mix of balls and strikes can be effective. It just kind of depends on your stuff and how it plays. But yeah, just real unique situations. I'm super excited for Murph to get a chance to go down there and swing the bat just because he was awesome. He raked there last year too, and super cool seeing Cherry on that roster and know that he's gotten a little bit more international experience. Like he's such a good young arm that we had last year, and he's the kind of guy though where he throws so hard that sometimes with those kind of conditions they don't affect him as much. So I fully expect him to be able to make an impact for that team down there.
When we talk about international experience, there's quite a bit of guys on this roster exclusively with international experience. Talk about Mitch Lamson, his time playing abroad, especially in Asia. Murph and his time down in Mexico. Tasker as well in the Winter League down there. You've gone to Australia the last couple of off seasons. I'm going to be definitely missing a couple of guys. Cherry being in China this off season. How
Yeah.
important is it for a player to have international experience? Going into a league like the American Association, where it kind of feels like your options of where you can play outside of the season kind of opens up so many different avenues.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately when you look somebody up and you find their baseball reference page, where they've been in the world, like that is your resume, and that's your resume for the jobs that you've gotten in baseball, and that's your resume for the jobs that you're looking to get in baseball, right? So, and if you can pitch well in multiple leagues in different countries, that bodes really well for your track record, right? If you're somebody who has success, but it's only in the same league year after year, well, it doesn't hold as much weight as somebody who's able to pitch their way around the world, kind of like what Mitch Lamson's done, where that says a lot about his abilities, that it plays anywhere and he can get people out no matter what. So, yeah, it's definitely important, especially because this league does such a great job of being a stepping stone for a lot of players too, whether it be back to affiliate ball, to winter league contracts, or to some international leagues. The little bit more flavor you can get in your baseball experience and add that to your resume is always going to bode well for you.
I want to talk a little bit about just the ability of not just playing in our league, but also playing in the Asia League. So I know that in the offseason, you were having in some conversations with some teams, I believe in Japan. I don't know if there was any talks about Korea, but what was it like from your offseason in Sydney? Because I know that's a big avenue for a lot of those Asia leagues to go down there and play in Australia for the offseason.
Yeah, and I think that's something that league in Australia brings that's kind of unique to it is it's a lot closer to Asia than some of the North American leagues. So it's a good opportunity for scouting. It's a good opportunity for a lot of their younger players to get their feet wet in the professional scene. And yeah, like I said, it's being in different countries gives you so many different experiences and different exposures. And like I said, from some of the proximity stuff, like that was super important. And like I said, you throw well in those kinds of situations in different leagues and you never know what can happen.
Is it interesting to have conversations with so many different teams at once over the course of your off season? Because I know you would love to, as much as you would love to come back to Winnipeg, but a possibility of a career in Japan and possibly making it to the Japan major leagues in the NPB. Like, how many different roads are there to get to the highest level of a league in a possibly a different country?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it all just comes down to pitching well, and then you kind of control what you can control. But ultimately, just learning some of the subtleties and some of the differences in how international baseball works, and like Japan in particular, playing with some Japanese players last year. Um, just the game's the same, but it's different at the same time too, right? Like where just culturally, there's a lot that revolves around respect and how you communicate with everyone within those organizations, and how players are treated and taken care of is second to none there. And just the fan bases in general too. Like I think that's something that I saw a little bit of in Australia last year with some of our Japanese players is people follow those players everywhere, right? Like they're basically rock stars in a sense. So it was a lot of fun to just see the support of the fan base, and just how big baseball is culturally there was really cool. And I mean, it would be an absolute opportunity to get a chance to play in any of those leagues. And that's kind of what anybody says is everyone that I know that's played in Japan has said it was by far the best baseball experience they had. So, like I said, super cool. And you never know, like I said, as long as you continue to pitch well, what can come up.
We're taking a look at the roster here going into the new season. Plenty of returners, but there's also a lot of young guys on this list. And particularly, there's a couple of young Canadians who are going to be making, one of them's going to make their professional debut later on in the spring. One of them is going to try to get another bounce back in his career in, I hope I'm saying Schofield Sam's name right. I mean, I've heard it pronounced a couple of different ways, but we're looking at this 26 ball club right now, and it's looking pretty darn good. A lot of left-handed options in the bullpen. Take us through what you're seeing from this roster and what Logan has built so far in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it time and time again. I think every year I do this podcast or the radio show in the off season, and it's just like, hey man, Logan, like if there's good free agents out there, he knows about them. He's in contact with them. Like he does such a good job keeping his ear to the ground on getting players, and I know he's even still working on stuff, right? Like, and that's just kind of the nature of independent baseball, where you're always looking to fill some holes, kind of all the way up until the season, and then all throughout the season too. But I like there's a lot of there is some young talent, and I think the best part about having young talent is those guys are always pretty hungry. And not to say that older players aren't, but it's a different kind of hunger in a sense too, where they're still chasing a lot of things in their career and opportunities that still may come their way just because of their age. So no, like TJ is somebody who's a pretty experienced bat. He's still pretty young, but I mean that guy's gotten what I think maybe a couple thousand minor league at bats. Like I looked at the numbers, and all he's ever done in his career is hit. And so I was kind of firsthand witness to him down in Florida with the national team in the fall, and kind of said, "Hey Logan, like I don't know why this guy doesn't have a contract. Let's try to give him one and see if it works out." And yeah, fortunate to have him locked up to come play with us, and I think he'll be a pretty exciting player to watch. And I mean, there's just so many other guys too. Like it's funny. It seems like every year when we show up for spring training, there's either somebody I didn't know or hadn't heard of who always comes out and impresses and surprises you. So just looking forward to seeing who that's going to be this year.
We'll go back in time to the 2021 season. You were one of those young guys making his professional debut after your career at San Francisco. So, what is something that a 2026 Landen Bourassa, who's going into his sixth season with the Goldeyes, would want to go back and tell that young kid just joining the fish for the first time? One, what to expect from professional baseball, and two, what you yourself have learned over the years that that young kid should know going into his first professional season.
Yeah, I think the big thing that I would have probably told him is understanding how valuable it is to still be young in this league. And right, I was somebody who came from being the oldest guy on his college team pretty much to being one of the younger players in the league, and understanding that that's kind of your leverage, that's kind of your ticket out if you want to play elsewhere or play in affiliate ball, and just understanding that you only get so many opportunities, so you just kind of got to make the most of those. And I think I've been super fortunate to pitch well and help the ball club win games here, that they keep allowing me to come back and keep having me back. And I think, if you'd told myself in 2021 that, in 2026, I'd be living in Winnipeg full time and going into my sixth year with the team, I don't think I would have believed that would have been the case. But at the same time, it's been great where there's been some really good work opportunities. And like I said, we've gotten taken care of so well in Winnipeg. And like I said, it's just such a great time with the players and the personnel. Like there's nobody or no thing about this organization that I don't approve of, right? Like I think it's been a lot of fun to get to know everyone on a deeper level every year that I'm here, just continuing to build those relationships, because it's a place that's meant a lot to me. The community has meant a lot to me. And of course, having success here within this community means a lot to me too. So nonetheless, we, didn't have a great year last year, but at the same time, every new season brings some new opportunities, and really looking forward to what this team's capable of, and getting everybody in town for the training camp.
I can't think of a better way to wrap this one up than that. Thank you to Landen Bourassa stopping on by. We'll see you coming up very shortly. I know you're staying with Murph, so you're already in town, but the Goldeyes open up the 26th season in Milwaukee on Friday the 15th in May, and then come back home against Kane County for Tuesday, May 19th at 6:30. Landon, thanks for stopping by.
Awesome. Thank you, Trevor. Have fun at the BCL.